Fantastic, and welcome to our very first Facebook Live on the truth about alcohol with me, Greig Smith, and my very good friend, Mr. Cam Jahal, founder of the Property Professionals Association. Now, here we are today. We're talking about alcohol. Me and Cam are both business owners and busy professionals, entrepreneurs, and we've both got very different stories with alcohol. So if you've just tuned in, thank you for joining us. And why are we asking these questions now about alcohol? Because we're all in lockdown. So the temptation to, just have a cheeky drink is certainly stronger now more than ever. But there's also an opportunity in this crisis to kind of double down on our routines, on our ambitions and that kind of stuff. So let me welcome my friend, Mr. Cam Jahal. Welcome, Cam.
Hey, Paul, how you doing?
All good, all good. So obviously, when I mentioned we've got different stories with regards to alcohol, tell us a little bit more about your story. And if you're listening to this, whether you've ever had experiences with binge drinking or even moderate to heavy drinking, listen in, because this is all about kind of, if you want to kind of phase it out and maybe, replace it with more healthy habits, then listen in. So yeah, tell us a little bit about your story, Ken.
Well, all starts well, doesn't it? As always does. So, I didn't start drinking until quite late. I mean, I used to nick the odd can of beer from my dad's garden shed, etc. when I was a kid. But seriously, until about I was 24, 25 years old, I wasn't really that interested, Paul. So I wasn't that kid that went out at 17, 18, I had the odd shandy here and there. And then I set up home, got married, and we didn't really have alcohol in the house at the time. And, but, as I grew in business, I started going out more and mixing with people more. And it seemed like a really natural and a good thing to do. We quickly, the first business that I had was market trading, as you well know. Mm-hmm. And so that seemed to be successful very, very quickly. So, and with it came money and socializing, etc. So it was just something that started in my mid-20s. What about you say?
Well, so for me, I mean, a little bit opposite to you. I think I maybe started a little bit younger, certainly around the 15, 16 kind of age. And I do remember going out when I was young, hanging around, drinking. I mean, I've never been a heavy binge drinker, but I did other things, so no stranger to potentially addictive substances or very addictive substances. So I kind of, was a bit of a party boy when I was younger. And I got into business, and obviously the more you get into business, the more serious and professional you become. And I still drink today. I'm a casual drinker, so Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays. But here's the thing, I'm obsessed with optimal kind of performance. And it's like, it's one of my remaining bad habits, which, for 4 days of the week, I'm very, I work hard, but then for 3 days of the week, it's kind of a little bit of a write-off. I only have a couple of glasses a night, maybe Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But now I'm finding that maybe I think that's a little bit too much, and I'm wanting to cut down and even phase it out and ultimately stop.
That's interesting, because there's a lot of people in your position now. One of the things that I talk about quite a lot is the difference between a sports person and a business person. It takes exactly the same mental energy to do either of those jobs. So we wouldn't find the top athletes, the top footballers in the pub on a Friday night.
Yeah.
Just before a game on Saturday. So as business people, I think sometimes it's difficult because we can't always measure our performance. But it's definitely affected. Your mental energy is definitely affected. So I really get what you're talking about in terms of wanting to be at peak performance. And I don't know whether that's, to do with a little bit of age and maturity, or it's just knowledge and experience that tells you that, you perhaps could do better in business.
Yeah, I think it's all of those things. For me, what I've noticed now, I'm early 40s now, I'm 42, and you know, I'm very healthy. I work out, I meditate, I do all the right things. But yeah, it comes down to time. You know, we've all got the same amount of time. And for me now, I've realized it's that recovery time, the lag period you get after alcohol. So the next 24 hours and so on afterwards. And what I found is that, you know, certain bad habits like, you know, addictive things like scrolling through Facebook and spending hours on, you know, watching videos of cats or something like that. If I drink, then I can just waste the whole weekend doing nothing. Whereas if I'm even more moderate, or even if I don't drink, my productivity goes through the roof. So I'm sure a lot of people listening can probably relate to that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? The problem that we have a culture in our country of drinking at the weekends when it's our own time. And as you know, I started my own business time at the weekends. And so I find it really, I find it a wasteful that, you know, we spend 35, 40 hours a week building somebody else's dream, because that's what employment really is. And then we have our own time and we get slaughtered on a Friday night, spend half the day in bed on a Saturday, and we repeat it all over again. But I think there's, you know, that's obviously a lifestyle choice, and you're not a person that it abuses alcohol, but you want to make lifestyle choices, and that's really commendable for you to realize that, because I guess you could carry on drinking the way you are, and a lot of people would say, well, there's nothing wrong with that, Paul, you're letting your hair down at the weekend, you know, a little bit more relaxing, etc. So I get that, right? But the thing is, I think that the death rate's about 3.5 million people a year throughout the world die from alcoholism or alcohol related diseases. So it's a huge problem, but the problem is that, you know, alcohol's legal and it pays taxes and it raises money for governments, right? So, you know, I was really, I could not keep a straight face when the supermarkets asked the government to make off licenses one of these essential shops.
The essentials, yeah. And we saw the panic buying of loo roll then turning to booze as well.
Yeah, nobody went on about the fact that every vodka shelf and every beer shelf was empty in the country. And that kind of got me thinking, which is where we are today. Probably the reason that, you know, we're here is that, you know, boredom is one of the things that leads to drinking alcohol, right? So we're not able to go to the gym, we're not able to socialize with our friends, so we're sitting at home. And, you know, and I know for a fact that I would be drinking a fair amount of alcohol right now. You know, there's no danger of driving, you know, not having to go anywhere. And that's probably why, you know, the supermarket shelves are empty. So, you know, certainly when I was alone or I was bored or I was stressed, you know, for me, alcohol was the answer to everything. You know, commiserate, alcohol, celebrate, alcohol. You know, and we do it, don't we? Wet the baby's head. You know, who on earth came up with the idea of wetting the baby's head? You got drunk when a child was born, right? Or, you know, giving somebody that's dies a good send-off. Yeah, look at all these sayings and phrases that keep us trapped in that idea. So, you know, so I kind of started drinking on a daily basis. Started doing a lot of meetings in pubs and clubs and bars, and I thought it was part and parcel, you know, of that whole idea of being in business and an entrepreneur. I lived in Dubai for about 10 years, as you know, so that was, you know, I was alone most of the time, so easy time to be sitting in the evenings, etc. And then in 2015, I discovered that it was a problem to me, and I was never one of those people that missed work. You know, I was never one of those people that was, and I actually didn't suffer very much from hangovers either. You know, didn't wake up with a stinking headache, and perhaps if I did, I would have made this choice earlier, right? But I didn't, you know. So, so in 2015, I decided that was it. I wasn't going to drink anymore, and that was going to be that. And I've got a very, very addictive personality. So if I want to do something, I'll read everything there is to read about it. I'll be on YouTube. I'll be everywhere. So I found all these groups and everything else, and I didn't drink for 8 months. And it was fine. It was a lovely time in my life, very productive again, as you said, very focused, you know, and the mental clarity that you get from it is enormous. And so after 8 months, I was going to India, and I got to Birmingham Airport, and I said, a pint wouldn't hurt, would it? You know, so about 3 pints later, you know, I get on the plane, and I've consumed a fair amount of alcohol. And of course, you know, what do we give each other as men especially? So I always give booze, right?
Yeah.
And the more value you have for that relationship, the better the quality of the booze you give, right?
Yeah.
So, my parents were in India. So from the airport, you know, I buy my father some malt whiskey because it's his birthday whilst I'm out there. So I think it was 2 or 3 bottles. So of course, what are we going to do? You know?
Yeah.
And so I said to my dad, I said, look, you know, I haven't been drinking for 8, 9 months. He said, you're here for 2 weeks. What the hell are you going to do? You're on holiday, right? So, and that's the other thing, isn't it? We associate good times with consuming alcohol. And it's there, bang, you know?
Like a trigger. That's
it. It's there, isn't it?
It's the first thing we do, yeah.
Yeah, the programming kicks in. And so that really led me to the next time I had any time off was 2016 or 17, I think it was. And I had about 2 months off. And I'd take the odd week off here and there, and I'd really feel good. And then obviously, when you feel good, what was the programming in my head to celebrate with? I feel great, let's have some food, right? The very thing that you're feeling great from not drinking. Yeah. It's strange. These things that go in our heads are really, really strange how we do these things. So, you know, this pattern was developing where I would give up for a week and I'd come back to it, and I'd give up for a week and I'd come back to it. And it was an interesting time that I was looking to sell my business. So I had the estate agency and the property management and all the companies that went with it for about 10 years. And I'd started, I think we met slightly after the time that I quit. I think I'd already quit the first time we met. And so things were coming up, Paul. There were times in my life, my children were getting to a point where they were going to graduate. And I kind of started writing down, you know, what road my life would take. You know, my relationship at home wasn't that clever. And so I thought, you know, what are you going to do now? Because there are turning points in everybody's lives, right? You know, there are big moments, and there's lots of small moments, and there's a few big moments, right? If you get the small moments wrong, if you get 3 out of 7 wrong, it's okay. But you get the big moments wrong, and it can be a disaster, right? So I kind of sat down and started thinking about what my life was going to be like. And I thought, the other thing I knew was that apart from thinking about retirement for about 3 days, I knew I was going to be in business again. And I knew there would be something else that I would start. And I thought, do you really want to take the same you into the next part of your life? And I really, really looked at it as a huge new chapter of my life. And there was lots of frustrations and lots of things that I hadn't done in my previous businesses, right? And perhaps I could have grown them more. Perhaps I could have sold out at a different time. Perhaps I didn't need to sell some of them. You know, there were times in my life where I felt frustrated that I could have done more and I didn't. And I didn't always understand why, right? Because when you're in these messes, you're the only one that doesn't understand what's going on. Everybody else, like, a bit too much. Nah, I'm great. Like that. And so so I started thinking at the beginning of the year, and there's always a tipping point, isn't there? And there's always a tipping point. And my twins were going to graduate, and I kind of had this feeling that, you know, not everybody wanted me at this graduation. And nobody said anything, but you know,
got the vibe.
Yeah, well, they've been away for 3 years, right? They've been locked up in their bedrooms for a couple of years before that, doing their A-levels. So they're different people now, right? You know, they went to university at, you know, 19, and now they're 21 years old, 22 years old, and they're different people. and they felt, you know, not close to me, if you like. And I started thinking that they become independent people now. They don't need my finances to help them in life. And, you know, they would graduate, and it was inevitable that they would end up with careers in London rather than being in Leicester. And then, Paul, you know, once they don't need me financially, then they don't really need to come home, do they? Right? And all they needed to do was say to their mother, you know, Mum, why don't you come to London instead? Because, you know, the three of them, like a little gang of three. Right? It's them three and me. And so, and I started thinking about what that would look like, and I started building that. And, you know, and I don't know what drove me to do it. There's no divine intervention, and there was no time when I thought, oh, this happened, that happened. Because I'm a logical guy, right? And logic dictated to me that, you know, they would no longer need me, that my wife would quite happily go and visit them in London, and therefore, and, you know, she's financially independent of me. So what would it take for them to set up home in London without me? So, and that would be 4, 5, 6, 10 years down the road, but that's what I started looking at. And then I started looking at the other side, is if I carried on with my life, what would happen? I would have bags of time on my hand now, right? I've got money, so what would I do? You know, that default, let's go and have a drink at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 5 o'clock, whatever time it was. You know, apart from being on holiday, I never, ever drank in the morning, right? Never drank in the morning. And so it was always a lunchtime thing. So I started writing down, Paul, what would happen. And then obviously I looked at the health implications. And I thought, you know, what would your health look like in 5 years' time? What would your relationships look like in 5 years' time? Right? And really, Paul, I cannot look after myself. I'm just simply not designed to live alone and look after myself, right? And, you know, the other thing is that despite my personality that people see, I actually want very little for myself. You know, my ambitions lie in providing the best that I can for my family, not necessarily for myself. So, you know, I could see this really dark, grim picture of life by myself. And I thought, you know, and it's sometimes I've likened it to taking the blue pill or the red pill.
Yeah, totally identify with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I look back at that moment now, and that's what I look at it like, right? So I'm going through these feelings, and I still haven't said to myself that I need to quit drinking, right? And the other big problem, Paul, that you find is every time you talk to somebody, right? When do you go and talk to people? When do you talk to a friend about the fact that you might be drinking too much? When you're in the fucking pub having a drink, right?
Yeah.
And you go, nah, you're all right, Cam. Next line's yours, right?
Yeah. The pressure's very real.
Yeah. And so, you know, that's not happening. And then, so I start mentioning to a few people, and this, nah. You want to be a social drinker just like me, Cam. And you think, I don't know how to be a social drinker, right? What's that all about? Because if you're going to go to a party, I don't know how well you are, like, you know, what's the most disappointing stuff in a party? If the food runs out, I don't care. If the booze runs out, I think, tight bastard, should have bought more, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, and so this is my mindset at the time. And what happened was, in July of that year, my children graduated. And so we went to Exeter on the Thursday. We went on Wednesday, but my son was going to graduate on Thursday. So stayed in the hotel, had a few drinks. And but the journey down from Exeter to Exeter from Leicester is 4 hours, with a stop in the middle for lunch or something. So you're talking about 4.5, 5 hours. So we got into the hotel, and the bar was closed. I thought, bastards. You're right.
Yeah.
Because I've been out and I've had a couple of polite drinks, right? You know, but now I want the real drink. So I find an excuse to go downstairs, and of course the bar's always got open to the residents, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right? So I have a few drinks, nothing too excessive, because I know it's a big day in the morning. I'm not stupid. Right? So we do my son's graduation, and they served Prosecco there, had a couple of those, and that was that. And after that, we drove home. So we get home, and it's my daughter that's graduating on the Tuesday. So he graduates on Thursday, she's graduating on Tuesday. So so I drive back home, and so I have a normal day on Friday. I can't really recall much of what had gone on, so it was a non-eventful day. And then on Saturday, I've got a meeting in London, and so I go and meet a friend of mine at lunchtime, and you know, I put away a fair amount of alcohol, right? And so from there, we're there most of the afternoon. I drive over to see my friend Ali, and we've got a fair amount of business going on in a few parts of the world. And we had a meeting in Ealing at the Crown Plaza Hotel. And so we're talking, and I have a pint of beer. And you know what? Really strange. I knew then at that moment that was the last drink that I would have. Interesting. Yeah, yeah. So 5 o'clock on the 21st of July, at Hanger Lane, Ealing. Sorry, it's not more romantic or more significant as a building. You know, one of the busiest roads in the country. That's where I had my last pint of beer, and that was it. That's interesting, because you've touched on so much, and I've been taking notes as we've been talking. One of the things I wanted to touch on was, you know, it's so heavily ingrained in our culture. There's all these triggers and pressure, the social kind of drinking aspect of it. But like you said, it's almost like these little moments, they stack up. Yes. You know, and they have this compound effect over time. Like you said, you were mentally kind of mapping out, scoping out, hey, where's my life going to go in, you know, 5 years, 10 years? What's the impact going to be on my family, on my health, on my finances, on this current trajectory? And yeah, I totally identify with that. I mean, I've got, for me, I kind of, you know, people talk about gateway drugs. For me, alcohol is a gateway drug. You can never have just one. It will, you'll have one and it'll take over the night type thing. So it's interesting as well, because again, coming back to the fact that we're business owners and entrepreneurs and so on, what I found is almost like this mental fog, you know, and it's very easy to just, you know, there's so much in our culture which is just geared towards distraction and enjoyment. And it's interesting, you know, right now in this time of, you know, pandemic, global crisis and so on, suddenly so many people, everyone's got all this time on their hands, you know, and I'm kind of saying to people, you know, that big dream you've always thought about, oh, one day I'll do this, one day I'll do that when I have the time. Well, you've got the time now. Yeah. But a lot of people are just like distraction, Netflix binging, been there as well. But also, you know, the urge and temptation to drink has never been stronger at a time when we could be stacking up our wins, really dialing down on our ambitions, whether you want to start in a business, starting an online business, if you want to get fit, all those things you could be doing instead of drinking. And again, I'm not here to preach to anyone, because you know, I'm still a drinker. So look, it's you know, I think the word unprecedented has probably never been used so much in history as it has to describe what we're going through right now. But you know, if you said to somebody in 5 years' time, this is what's going to happen, they'd lock you up, right? Yeah. Right. So it feels like one of these weird, surreal science fiction TV serials, doesn't it? You know, where nothing much happens, and that's what it looks like. We're locked in one of those, doesn't it? Right. But look, you know, the thing is this, and this is the reason why you and I are here, Paul, and this is why I started discussing this right now. So I always knew that at some point I wanted to talk about alcohol. I wanted to talk about my journey, so that, you know, we as a country are very, very heavily invested and consumed in alcohol. My own community is even more so, you know, and there are other communities that are the same. You know, the Irish are exactly the same as a community. So the Sikhs as a community are absolutely, you know, consumed by alcohol. So I sometimes say, and I think I've said it to you, you know, it would have been easier to say that I'm gay than it has been to say I've quit alcohol, right? The insults have been incredible.
Wow.
Right? The innuendos and all the rest of it have been absolutely there. But you know what I did, you know, and this is the time that we've got here now, these 3 weeks, 3 months, whatever it turns out to be, is an opportunity, like you said, to do whatever it is that you want. Right? So as I said, you know, how you do anything is how you do everything. So if at this moment in time is a dark moment for you, oh, what am I going to do? I'm at home, I got nothing to do, my job's gone, my business might disappear. You know, there's always excuses, isn't there? You know, a friend of mine said to me recently that so many people have been saying to him they want to get into the property business. If property fell in price, oh, I'd buy 2 of those. Right? You know, and soon as property prices look as if they're going to go down, I'm going to pile into the market. I'm going to start a business. He said, Cam, not one of them want to start now.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? It's just another excuse.
Yeah.
So just like I made excuses about, you know, I knew that one day I would give up drinking alcohol. I don't know why I knew that, but I just did. Right? Just like, I think you've asked me the question, did you always know that you'd be successful? Yeah. What in? I had no idea. Right? But as a very, very young child, I always knew that my destiny lay in being successful in some way, shape or form. And that success to me, growing up with not a lot of money, was material possessions. Because success is different things for different people, right?
Yeah.
Right? So, you know, so I always knew, that one day I would call it a day on alcohol. And it'd be another stage of my life, and it'd be another chapter, perhaps a completely different book. Right? And so, and the thing that correlated with what I'm doing now is that previous businesses have always been about how much money I can make. Right? So I'm kind of an off the scale alpha male in terms that the thing that I believe in the most is that I need to provide financial security for my family. And so I always thought that I did a good job in that field. And so therefore that I was successful, then I could do anything else that I wanted to do, which obviously isn't the right way to behave, is it? Right? It may have been long, long time ago. But my role models, you know, people that were successful in my community were really horrible people. They drank a lot, drove big cars. They were generally rude to everybody because they had a load of dough, right? Yeah. And so, and that's what I grew up seeing, and perhaps subconsciously that's what I was mimicking. So I knew that it was a different chapter and a different time, and that I had to become somebody else to fulfill some of these ambitions that I had. And then I now get to do what I want to do. Okay.
And it comes back to time again. And this is why I'm at this kind of juncture now, again, reevaluating my relationship with alcohol. Because there's, I mean, there's a wonderful quote, I'm sure you've heard it, routine in a man is a sign of ambition, W.H. Auden. Love that quote. Once you start getting serious about your life, your ambitions and so on, because as you said, it's easy to make excuses, you know, but here's the thing, whether it's, you know, successes or failures or you're drinking or whatever, and the compound effect, it's these little things along the way, and over time they stack up. Oh, you want more? You've always talked about setting up a business, or you've always wanted to do property. Now's the time. Now's the time. And again, the more serious I've become and dive deeper into personal development, got my podcast on personal development essentials, and business coach, all this kind of stuff, the more serious I get. It's the shedding away of layers of ignorance, and also the shedding of my own excuses. Like, oh, I want more time and energy for this goal over here. Where can I get that time and energy back? Well, let me look at my routine. I'm spending 3 nights a week drinking. Maybe I can kind of stop doing some of that and reinvest it over here. So if any of this is kind of, you know, resonating with anyone here, here's the thing. It's just an open and honest discussion of two guys in our journey with alcohol.
Well, Paul, it's interesting. You mentioned the word routine, right? But everybody in the public domain, the press, the TV shows would associate that with somebody that's really boring, right? Yeah. And this is the problem, isn't it? So there's images that we have of successful people not giving a damn, doing whatever they want, whenever they want. But the fact is that, you know, I follow football a lot for the disciplines that it brings, and great managerial people that have been in that game, and I admire all of them and all of their skills. So in terms of a footballing career, it's about 8 years, right? And they get to play 90 minutes a week, and sometimes twice a week. But guess what? You know, 10 till 4 every day, they're practicing, aren't they?
Yeah.
That's the routine, isn't it? That's the boring bit that most people can't do. But then if you can't do that bit, you don't get to be on TV and be applauded by 60,000 people, right?
Yeah.
And so it took me a long time to get that, because you only see people partying, don't you?
Yeah, you only see the Facebook kind of lifestyle and so on.
Well, especially now.
Which is the edited highlight reel of people's lives.
Well, it's interesting. You know, somebody said to me, the problem with social media is people trying to make their lives look like better than they really are. And which, as long as you know that, you get that, but not everybody's as strong, or we can't all, you know, blank these things out, because we'd be bombarded with it right now. And we will get more and more bombarded with it. Advertising is more and more targeted, right? So if we visit a website, that website suddenly starts popping up on your Facebook feed, right?
Yeah.
Because they've got the widgets that know that.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're more targeted, we're more, there's more focused targeting of what's in our wallets, right? But the thing is this, right? So we can learn from the experience that we're going through. You know, we can live in denial, and some people will, or we can learn from it. So it's a time of great reflection, and it's a time to learn those skills, change those habits that you've always wanted to do. Like you said, here's the time. Right? How many times in our mentoring careers have you heard from people saying, oh, I haven't got the time right now?
Yeah.
See, number one is, I think that's the biggest lie that we tell ourselves anyway.
Yeah. And again, as soon as people say that, that's their excuse. Oh, I don't have the time, therefore, boom, you've stopped your mind even beginning to work on the solution.
But you're sitting there watching fucking Corrie 3 nights a week, or EastEnders, aren't you?
Yeah.
Got time for that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But no, to make a life for yourself, you know, you haven't got time for that. Right? But the thing is, it's just your mindset. Because, so let me just take you back. So that Saturday is the last time I have a drink. Right? So I'm home on Sunday. I'm home on Monday. And then I'm journaling like crazy, sometimes twice a day, writing down my experiences. And if anybody wants to quit, it's the best thing that you could possibly do. So I go to the graduation in London on Tuesday. Yeah, stone cold sober. Got my wife a Prosecco, my daughter a Prosecco, whatever it was. And we've been to a hotel, I think it's called, maybe the Bloomsbury in Mayfair. All right. They have a beautiful restaurant. Went there for a meal. My daughter had chosen that. So obviously celebrating. And I haven't made a big thing. If anybody that's ever tried to quit drinking, you know what? Your family doesn't care. They've heard this shit too many times.
Yeah.
So I'd given up telling people that I was going to stop and I was going to do this and all the rest of it, only to fall down a few weeks later, right? So, but I said to them I wasn't drinking at the time, and that's all I maintained it to be. And you know what, Paul, it was a fantastic day, and I can still remember it today. And then we came back on the train. We had an absolute blast coming back because it was late, and we were virtually the only people on the train. And to be able to then drive from the train to drive home was absolutely fantastic. And then what I started writing about was what did happen. So that experience to the experience that it would have been if I had been drinking. Right? So loads of time, loads of opportunity to drink from about lunchtime onwards. You know, so my daughter went to Queen Mary, so it's not a campus type university. So lots of food stalls, lots of places get beer and booze. I could have taken restaurants obviously there, and there's always the buffet car on the train. And so that journey would have been totally different for me, because I'd have been more interested in drinking. The family would have moved over somewhere else because the train was empty, and I would have been, you know, cowered over asleep somewhere at some point. Instead, I had a fantastic time. It was an absolute blast. But I wrote about what that journey would have been like had I still been drinking versus the journey that actually was. And for months and months, I kept comparing. Every time I went to a function, what would happen? So, you know, a couple of weeks later, I go to a wedding, and it's the first one, but luckily it was local. And so I decided that what I would do is I'd go to the wedding, so I wasn't going to hide out. And at the wedding would be the guys that I've been drinking with for 25, 30 years, right? And then if you'd ever come to an Indian wedding when I was drinking, we have tables of 10, you know, guys all sit around a table.
Big, raucous.
Yeah. And the booze is laid on the booze is laid on the table, right? And the dishonor is that, as again, they could run out of food, but if they don't give you a fresh bottle of booze when you ask for one, oh God, you know, God, my honor's been besmirched, right? And so I think, what am I going to do? Because these guys are going to be there, going to say, you're such a whatever, you know, expletive here. And so I kind of hid, you know, and I thought, what I'll do is if I get uncomfortable, I'm going to come home. My family can come home in a cab. But I stayed, and, you know, but I just delayed things. So when they were going to start drinking, I didn't go into the hall, because I haven't got the confidence right now. Yeah, it's a new skill, and I really don't know if I'm going to be any good at it. So stay away and kind of, you know, and I can hear them muttering in the background. But you can't hide for long, can you? You know. And about 3 or 4 weeks later, we had a barbecue for the kids' graduation. And so, you know, all the booze is there. So people are coming to my house. I'm not going to stop anybody else from drinking, right? And so, bam, there we have it. So I'm not drinking. So one of these gentlemen friends of mine said, how come you're not drinking? I said, you know what? I thought I'd give it a break. Better put it. And he goes, what a fucking stupid time this is to quit. Right? And so that got me, you know. That was like a real trigger. So I kind of said, what the fuck's it got to do with you? Whether I drink, right?
Yeah.
And he says, well, we'll see what you're doing in a year. And that riled me up even more. I said, look, it's my decision whether I drink or not. And if in a year I'm drinking, so what? What's it actually got to do with you? And I said, is there not enough booze here for you? Have I stopped you?
Yeah.
All right. And so, and you know what, Paul, that feels, when I look back on it, that feels like I owned my sobriety at that point. Right. And I just kind of, and there were a lot of guys there, a lot of my family. I got called a few nice names then, choice words, but that's what guys do after a few drinks, right? So, but from that moment onwards, it got easier. You know, you have to be vigilant. And the other thing is there's chemical situations going on in your head.
Yeah.
Nutrients are lacking in your body, you know. And of course, I was the ultimate hypocrite. I had a cupboard full of supplements and 3 cupboards full of booze. I'd still take everything.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I kind of protected my sobriety. I didn't I stopped meeting people in bars and clubs, right? I'd started meeting people in coffee shops instead. So I kept myself away from that situation. And I joined a secret Facebook group because, you know, you don't have the confidence to talk about this. And it was about 5 or 6 weeks in that I went to Andy Harrington's Speakers University for 4 days. Met a lot of very supportive people there, and I decided. So during that 4 days, you decide on Andy calls it your unique branded solution. So what problem are you going to solve for the world? Of course, I've got this new alcohol-free life. And I thought that's what I was going to talk about. That I was going to help people to quit drinking. Yeah, like I'm the expert, right? You know, I've quit 50,000 times and I'm like 4-6 weeks into it. But, you know, it seemed like a good idea. And I went through the whole week thinking that that's what I would do, right? Because I think, had I sold the business at that point? No, we were in the process of, right? You know, we'd made the decision and it was going through. I think the deal was done. So I knew it was going to finish. And so that was going to happen. And that's what I spent the weekend doing. But I met a lot of friends who were very, very supportive. I think it was, like I said, I was 4-6 weeks in. And that gave me a lot of encouragement. And I started working on my new business, and which was going to be something to do with this transformation and the whole self-healing, etc., etc., etc. Yeah, it didn't stop me, the fact that I knew very little about it, right? And then towards the end of that year and beginning of the following year, so 2018, 2019, I spoke to a mentor that I hired. And this mentor said to me, listen, Cam, you know, that's great. You want to solve the problem of alcoholism in the world. But the thing is, what you're known for is property. Right? So why don't you do what you're known for and do that as a business? And then one day come and talk about this thing, alcohol, and then, you know, you can take that worldwide.
Fantastic. And I know, you know, there's so much to kind of dissect in your story. We've got some, you know, nice comments of people who, you know, say they turn to alcohol when they're stressed and so on. So what I wanted to do, because obviously we wanted to wrap this up at 5. Yeah. So if there are any questions, if anyone's got any questions you want to ask us in Facebook now, whether it's about, you know, about our journeys with alcohol, you know, or entrepreneurship or business or anything you want to ask us, we're opening it up to anyone who is listening on Facebook now. So me and Cam will be happy to have a bit of a chat there with any of you. And if depending on whether or not the questions come in, if we don't get any questions, then we can kind of wrap up. And obviously we're going to be doing this quite regularly. You know, we're going to be covering a whole range of topics, you know, once a week, because we want to make the most of our time in lockdown, and we want to kind of help and serve, you know, share our knowledge with as many people as possible, you know, the highs and the lows, the trials and tribulations. And again, no one's perfect, you know, we're certainly not perfect. And it's interesting. I mean, I remember one time I was speaking on stage and some guy said, hey, you know, where does your energy and passion come from? And I said, pain and failure, man. You know, it's learning the hard way. So, you know, for anyone listening, it's, you know, it's not like we've totally got our acts together. I mean, I know, Cam, you've been doing great with staying off alcohol, but, you know, we're all works in progress at the end of the day. So,
like you said, you know, where did the 45 minutes go?
Yeah.
You know, the thing is, so if we want to start closing, you know, what lessons are there for me, and what lessons?
We've got one question from Julie Carter, who says, what advice would you give me to stop? Cam, that's a perfect one for you there.
Brilliant. The thing is that what you've got to do is you need leverage, right? The way you get leverage is to make one option much better than the other. So if you roll back to the time that I thought what my future would look like, the next 5 years would look like, if I carried on doing what I was doing, and if I stopped drinking alcohol, then, you know, what it became was that future with alcohol was very, very dark and very lonely, and the future without alcohol was very bright. So that was the leverage. That's what, you know, tipped the scales in my favor. And the thing is, Julie, there'll be things in your life, there'll be people in your life that matter more than booze does. And if you can focus on those people, those situations, those ambitions that you once had, right? And then quitting booze will seem like quite an easy thing. What do you think, Paul?
I love that. And actually, it's interesting. talking about leverage, a good way. I like to sometimes break things down so they're binary, you know, so easy decisions, because sometimes in the face of complexity, we react with kind of overwhelm and we don't know what to do. So quite simply, you know, the pain of if I don't change, what does my path look like here? And again, what does my path look like this way on the path to progress, on those things I do want? You know, maybe I want to lose some weight. Maybe I do want to start a company. Maybe I do want to start my property journey and so on. So Mark Dixon, we've got a one there. How do you deal with friends asking you to go for a drink? Total avoid situations. I'll tell you what, that's a very tough one. And
Corporate question. Corporate question. Right.
Yes.
I always went. Right. I always went. You cannot hide from this situation. You'll have some people that are in your camp that support you, and you'll have others that don't. Right. So go there and tell them that you don't drink, that nothing's wrong with you, you haven't got a disease or anything like that. The good thing is, Mark, that nobody's going to be asking you for the next 3 months. Right? So if you were to make that decision now, then for the next couple of 3 months, nobody's going for a drink with you. And so you don't have that pressure. And resistance, or saying no or doing anything, is a skill. And that's like a muscle that you need to develop. And in 2 or 3 months' time, that muscle will be so strong, it wouldn't matter to you what they said to you when you told them, I don't drink.
Yeah. And it's interesting. There's a couple of ways. One, you can either test your discipline, like Cam did there, and said, right, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to avoid it. But maybe if you think you would crumble as well, one thing you could try is minimizing those. I know it's tough, but whether or not you have a hobby or business, and what me and Cam always talk about, it's great, because whenever we talk, what do we talk? We talk, life, philosophy, business, what we're doing, that it's not idle chatter. It's always, meaningful conversations of substance. And when you're around different people, you're surrounded by different influences. So maybe change the crowd you're with. There's that wonderful quote by Jim Rohn: you're the sum of the 5 people you hang around with.
Your crowd will change itself. If you quit today, a year from now, all those friendships that just based around alcohol, and you don't know this right now. I didn't think that so many of my friendships were based around getting together at the pub. So the other thing is, as you've just said, Paul, so it's the art of war, right? So if deception, if you're weak, if your resistance is low right now, don't go and face the lion. Right? So if you think you're going to get slaughtered, you haven't got the strength, make some excuses and keep away until you have got the confidence to drink.
Yeah, great one.
Non-alcoholic obviously, right?
Yeah. One thing I was just going to add really quickly to that as well. One thing I've done in my home, which has made things really helpful, just to give you an idea, whether it's alcohol or binge eating on snacks, what I wanted to do was raise the barrier so that it was a little bit harder, rather than me to just be able to reach out for a drink or reach out for a sugary snack. I just put them in the garage, right? So that little barrier, I tell you what, that changed my behavior more than anything. Because every time I'd go in, I'd be like, it's in the garage, I can't be asked to get it. And then it just totally transformed my habits there.
Well, a lot of guides on giving up alcohol say, take it out of your house. Right, so if it's not in the house, then you won't want it, blah blah blah. I really didn't have that option, Paul. Because, I wasn't going to now turn into this person that doesn't offer booze when people come around. And the rest of my family live in my home, so they weren't giving them alcohol. So there's booze everywhere, And then I think I mentioned to you my children's party. I think I've got 6 boxes of vodka in my shed. And a couple that's now I would have gone through that by now. That's now gonna last a lifetime. So I walk by booze in the garage every morning when I go out, and etc. etc. I think the thing is this, that you've got to build up your own resistance, right? But over time that will come. And
it's not easy. It's different for everyone,
Yeah. One of the things I'd like to ask, Paul, for the people that are listening is, obviously sometimes it's a very taboo subject, right? So if you notice from the posts that I put up the other day, the only comments we got from people that are happy drinkers, right? Oh, I don't care, I'm a social drinker. We're not really interested in that story, are we? Right? The story is, if I'm going to do this thing, is to help people to quit drinking, and they don't always want to come out in public, and I get that, right? For a variety of reasons. So if we were to set up, I think I already may have done at some point, but if we were to set up a private Facebook group, would that help people? So guys, private messages if you don't want that on the timeline, right?
Yeah.
If you think that, you know, a private Facebook group would help you to combat this thing, if that's your ambition, then, you know, let us know. Let me or Paul know in the comments, and we'll get you added. If we've got one, I'll find it. If we don't, we'll set one up.
Yeah.
You think that's a good idea, Paul?
I think that's a great idea, because, you know, if anyone is on this and they are wanting, you know, whether it's just a helpful, supportive community, you know, which is forward thinking, progressive, you know, we're not preaching to anyone or anything like this. We're just sharing our journey and how it's been helpful to us, and, you know, how I'm trying to phase it out as well. So if you're listening to this and you're either you've got a problem, or maybe you don't have a problem, maybe you're a casual drinker or a heavy drinker, binge drinker, whatever, but ultimately, if any of what we've said has resonated with you and you want to improve, then please do, you know, connect with us on Facebook. You know, we'll get a group set up, because I do believe, you know, being part of a group, of a supportive community, is one of the best things you can do when dealing with something like this.
I totally agree with that, Paul. So as I said early on, I joined this private Facebook group, right? They actually threw me out because they said that I made it sound too easy, right? to quit alcohol. So, but that just spurred me on. I thought I was doing something right. And the other thing is that, just, you know, we're wrapping up now, is, so they were advocating that you move on to alcohol-free drinks, right? And in fact, part of their business was selling alcohol-free drinks. So, and people had asked me whether I thought that was a good idea. In my previous attempts to stop drinking, I had swapped alcoholic for non-alcoholic drinks. But you know what? Guess where they keep the non-alcoholic drinks at the supermarket, Paul? In the same fucking aisle that they have alcoholic drinks, right? So there you are trying to give up, and then you've got this huge aisle full of this booze that you used to buy. So, and then the other thing is, it's just as expensive. So if you're planning to save any money, that's not worth, right?
Yeah.
And so for about 6-7 months, I didn't touch anything, right? Because not only do you want to break the habit of actually drinking alcohol, if you want to give up, you need to give up those places that your mind associates with drinking alcohol.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I'll tell you what, it's really interesting, Cam, it's really encouraging seeing the comments. People are saying, yes, you know, brilliant, let's do it. I think people want us to set up a Facebook group, so let's do it, and let's all kind of help each other and share useful information.
I'll do it week, and we'll get that going, and, you know, that's where we are. So we've got 5 minutes, Paul. What would you like to say now in the next 5 minutes?
Again, what I would, a bit like you said, you know, it's about leverage. You know, if you're either sitting with some kind of pain, whatever, some kind of, you know, it could be a crutch, an emotional crutch. We've all got our own different internal as well as external triggers, right? But again, it comes down to, for me, it comes down to, like you say, having a bigger goal, something better, which is pulling you towards it with better than the outcome. So this is why I'm at this juncture of wanting to, you know, phase it out and ultimately quit, because there's so many other things I want to do. So yeah, people who just drink at home, you know. So for me, I've always been very big into, you know, learning, business, entrepreneurship. So I'm already focused in that respect there. And I was realizing that, hang on, my habits here, they're holding me back a little bit. But for some people, they may not have that. Maybe they need to carve out time to rediscover something important to them, which has a greater pull than alcohol. But for me, ultimately, it's all about trying to steer yourself away from regret, because if you do have a problem, you know where that path leads. And it's about taking back control one day at a time. And again, no preaching, no judgment here. We're all on different journeys, but we're all here to help. So let's get that set up, and we'll share tips and advice on business, health, giving up, all those kinds of stuff.
Okay. So about 19 months in, right? First year was tough. And you know what the toughest part was, Paul? Mental. I have never committed so many driving offences in that 12 months than I did at the time after I quit drinking. Parking, yeah, going into junction boxes, stupid little things that I'd never done in my past. Because what's happening is, you know, the transmitters in your brain are absolutely effed up with booze. Okay, and there's confusion going on. They're trying to make those so your brain's is ready for alcohol now, it's ready for an invasion every single day, because let's put it this way, it's a poison. Make it quite clear what it actually is, right? So, you know, you're putting poison in your body's ready and it's braced for it every single day. And then all of a sudden it doesn't come. And it doesn't come 1 day, 3 days, 5 days, and time goes on, right? So, you know, there's research that tells you that the neurotransmitters in your brain start going back to how they work. So your brain's trying to fathom out what's going on. And, you know, your motor functions sometimes don't, you know, your cognitive thinking isn't there, right? It's a fact. And so, you know, that was a big wake-up call and a learning curve as to the effects that it had, right? I dropped 2 stones in weight, right? Which was just happened by magic, right? So that was an absolutely fantastic place to be. And I don't think we would be friends today. I don't think I'd have the business that I have today. I certainly wouldn't have the Facebook community that I'm a part of today had I still been drinking.
Fantastic. And that's testament to, you know, the benefits. And I've seen them in such a short period of time. I think I met you just as you were coming out of that phase and into the kind of accelerated performance and so on. And I've seen your kind of journey and rise and all this kind of stuff. It's been a pleasure to watch, and it's been a pleasure to, you know, for both of us to talk here today. And I just want to thank you and thank everyone who has joined us today. And again, guys, connect with us on Facebook, you know, send us some friend requests. We will get that group set up. But again, bang on time. I'd like to thank everyone for your time today, and look forward to, you know, helping you all on the Facebook group.
Yeah, look, this is just the start. Okay, so it's the start of a journey. It's the end of our first chat that we're having. And this will continue and this will grow. You know, there's no agenda here. It's just a case now of us wanting to help, because it's a great time in our lives. And if we start this thing now, in 2 or 3 months' time, when we finally let out, right, we could be different people, right? It's not what we need to do, it's who we need to become.
Perfect.
Right? That's what we're going to do. So I'll see you at some point in the future, Mr. Greig Smith. Yeah. Take care. So brilliant. All of you guys, thanks so much for listening today. And until next time.
Brilliant. Take care, guys. See ya.